T.B.Photo X1.5 to FX, and welcome back to another video. Well, I know I've been away for a couple of weeks. That is because school, when you have on-the-job training and so on, that actually takes priority. And if I had to choose between school and YouTube, I have to choose school because it's my education, my future, and I think that's kind of more important. But anyway, we're back with photo news number 7, and first off, I would really like to extend a huge thank you to all my subscribers, because got a minor shock when I looked at my account this morning and it said 200. Oh, that's right. I have broken the 200 subscriber mark. And I think it was just, a few months ago that I did a video when I said I had broken 150 subscribers. So time flies when you're having fun, and yet again, I think it's quite astonished. I'm quite astonished, and I think it's really great and cool and humbling to see that I have reached 200 subscribers. So to all of you out there who subscribe to my channel, thank you so very much. But anyway, I thought we will actually start with a little bit of what I have been accumulating in the way of gear in the time that I've been away. So I know there is a lot of hype about vintage cameras and so on, but there is one series that I don't think gets any attention when it comes to the Nikon line of cameras, and this is actually my oldest camera. I'm gonna do a review of it in a future video. The Nikkormat EL. I mean, for me, this is the Nikon F0. A lot of people start to talk and rave about the Nikon F and then single digit line. Well, in my opinion, this is the Nikon F0. I mean, this is the first camera in the Nikkormat line, however you want to pronounce it. I'm Swedish, so I might screw it up a little bit, but anyway, English is not my primary language. But anyway, this, I mean, can it be more 70s than this? This camera strap that came on it, this is pure 70s to me. It smells like 70s as well. It smells like polyester and vinyl. So basically, why did I go for this camera in the Nikkormat series? Well, I'll tell you, it's because it's the first of the Nikon SLR cameras that has, in my opinion, a control layout that is what we see as the norm of it, what we expect of a classic SLR camera today. I mean, if you look at the top, it's very, self-explanatory. You don't have any, exposure compensation on it, but you have a ISO dial that goes, or ASA as it says on this one, but it goes from 25 to 1600. Yeah, you have a hot shoe with a center point connector. You have, on the earlier Nikkormats, you had a adjustment collar here for your shutter speed. You have an adjustment collar for your f-stop, and you had your focus. So everything was in line with the lens. But this one, the EL, was the first one that had a top-mounted shutter speed dial. And this one goes from 4 seconds. Well, you have bulb mode, then you have 3 second long exposure times. You have 4, 2, and 1. And then it goes from half second up to 1/1000th of a second. So basically, this camera, you have, depth of field preview, you have mirror up mode, you have lens disconnect, and it even has also aperture priority. You can actually put this into A mode, and when you have it in A mode, on the dial up here, you actually have it at aperture priority. You have a great feeling trigger release that also is threaded for a taller trigger or a remote, cable release, I should say. One of those classic winding mechanism, and when you put it out into this, you have the red dot here, means that you have the meter, because this has a meter in it and so on. It's electronic, so it works on a battery, but more about that in a future review of this camera. But anyway, in my opinion, the Nikon F0, the Nikkormat EL. So anyway, I mean, what did I get this for? I mean, this was dirt cheap. I mean, it is not in 100% great condition. It's a little bit faded and it has some wear and tear on it, but patina in my opinion. And I got this on Tradera, which is a Swedish version on eBay, for 150 Swedish kroner. Compare that into euros, that's 15 euros, 12 British pounds, or 16 American dollars. So it's an underappreciated classic when it comes to 35mm cameras. The only downside, you need lenses that have pre-AI connectors. But that means that you can have any lens that has, as this one, which you're going to get to in a moment. It has this, fork or hook or prong design. As long as it has this, you can use it on the Nikkormat. Anything that has an F mount and the little prong connector, you can use on this. So yeah, it's a brilliant camera. I've used it a little bit, put a few rolls through it. It might look a little bit old and it has some wear on it, but it's still going strong. And also, excuse me, cut that out. I know that a lot of people are rambling now about the Nikon F4, that it's one of Nikon's premier top of the line cameras that are so great and so looked sought after now by collectors. But I mean, I have my collection now of Nikon SLR cameras, and as I said, this is the oldest one, the Nikkormat, which I would call the Nikon F0. You have the Nikon EM, which is basically an aperture priority only camera. This is basically just a street point and shoot in some aspects. And you have my dad's old 801. I mean, this today, I know a commenter on my channel, he called this the 35 equivalent of the film equivalent of the Nikon D800 series. And yeah, I can understand a bit what he was on about. But anyway, I needed something in between these. And since so many people start to talk about the Nikon F4, I thought, well, how about I look one tier down? The F4 is the top of the line, but what was the backup for many of the F4 shooters? And I found this baby. This is the Nikon F501. It was sold in the US as the Nikon N2020. So yeah, I mean, if you have looked a little bit on Digital Rev with Kai and Locke, who unfortunately don't work for Digital Rev anymore, they had a episode when they were supposed to buy a 35mm camera, and they had to pitch it to that it was good. And Locke bought the very first autofocus camera made. It was the Minolta Maxxum 7000. But this is Nikon's equivalent to the Maxxum 7000. This was Nikon's first ever autofocus camera, the F501 or 2020. It is based basically on the Nikon F301, but the difference is that this one has a couple extra buttons here. The red one in the bottom is apparently the time release. The middle one, AFL, autofocus lock, when you have it in continuous, and the top one is auto exposure lock. If you have it in aperture priority, you can lock the exposure. So basically, this is what I think is a underappreciated classic from Nikon. I mean, it's not the F4, and I don't claim that it is, but it is in the same league. It's the same era as the F4, and even this was basically the test bed for some of the technology that the F4 implemented. Because this one has autofocus. Unfortunately, this one does not have some different, it is spot meter or center weighted metering, but it is a beautiful camera. It's very analog, and everything feels like it is very tactile, very in your, a really beautiful camera. The 800 series seems to be a little bit more digitized, if you know what I mean. Everything is a little bit more that you have menus and modes on it as such. This one, everything is still, clicking dials. I mean, this one has a minimum shutter speed of 1 second, half second, 2 seconds, 4 second, 1/8. This one goes up to 1/2000th of a second, while the Nikkormat goes up to 1/1000th of a second. This goes 1 f-stop faster. But still, you have, ISO dial, you have your exposure compensation plus minus 2 f-stops, you have your shutter speed dial, and you have this little color around the shutter button that you have it basically on locked or off position. You have it in S, which is single shot, and you have C, which is continuous shot. And you have this little dial here for audio, if you want the audio tone on. You have the combined rewind. It has automatic winding, but not automatic rewind. So you still have this little crank to rewind the film. And you have your frame counter here to count how many exposures you have left. But basically, this camera, I know I have the cap on, but it feels so brilliant in your hands. So it's not the Nikon F4, I don't claim it to be as good as Nikon F4, but it's one tier down, and I would really say it's an underappreciated classic. Both of these two are unappreciated Nikon classics. So here you basically have a little bit of the evolution of Nikon 35mm. You begin with the EL, the EM, the 501, and the 801, and maybe we will get some in between in the future. But anyway, I would like to continue a little bit now with 2 more acquisitions, and then we'll go into photo news. Well, first off, I got on eBay and I thought I need a normal lens for the D7200, because I love the prime lenses and so on, but I needed something that was fairly fast and would translate into something of a normal lens. So I got this one from an eBay seller that I have used a couple of times. They're in Central Europe, and this lens, I will try to get some sample images and so on. It's the Nikkor 28mm f3.5 or on the D7200. This translates into roughly 42mm. So it's a little bit of a low number normal lens. Oh yeah, messages coming in on the cell phone. But anyway, it's a brilliant little piece of kit, and this might be my new video lens, who knows. And then I went to a local Goodwill one, whatever you want to call it, Erikshjälpen in Swedish, and I got this. I mean, this one I paid a fairly good price for, actually. I paid 814 Swedish kroner for this, which is 80 euros or $85 or 68 British pounds from a retail store on eBay. So I think that was a fairly decent deal. And then this one I got for 300 Swedish kroner or 30 euros, 25 pounds or $31. this is the Sigma DL 75 to 300 millimeter f4 to 5.6. On the Nikon D7200, it is basically 112 to 450 millimeter equivalent. So it's a push-pull. It's an older Sigma. I mean, it's not internally focusing, but for 300 Swedish kroner, I didn't expect to get a, super deluxe lens. But still, I got it in its original vinyl case, and the lens hood. So the complete lens, everything for 300 Swedish, or 30 euros, 25 pounds, $31. And I think this one will, this will work on these two, these two cameras. This one will work no problem on it. So yeah, it's a cool lens. But anyway, I'll just put this away for now. And I think this will go head to head with my Nikkor 75 to 300 millimeters, but the Nikkor is a 4.5 to 5.6. So yeah, we'll see about that in the future. But anyway, that's a little bit of my acquisitions: 2 cameras, 2 lenses, and a little bit of photo books, but I thought that will maybe be in a separate video. But anyway, a little bit now on photo news. Well, first of all, this is something that, if you know, I saw an interview a couple of years ago with Rolling Stones guitarist Keith Richards, and he talked about the difference if a piece of gear, if it is a tool or if it's a toy. And this is something I will ask to you, dear viewers. Is this a tool or is it a toy? Because Canon has unleashed or unsealed the existence, or that they are gonna come out with a 35mm f2.8 macro lens. But the special thing with this macro is that it has a built-in LED ring light built into the lens itself. It's called the Canon Macro IS-STM, and it has a set price of $349. So I'll ask you, is it a tool or is it a toy? And while you're thinking about that, I'm actually going to reset the camera, because as I see on my phone here, I'm starting to go up towards 20 minutes. So yeah, stay tuned. And we are back, and yeah, I would like to have an answer in the description of your thoughts on it. Is it a tool or is it a toy to have a macro lens with a built-in ring flash? So for what I've been able to gather, it has to work on the camera's internal batteries. So is this a good piece of gear, or is it something that will have, drain the camera batteries prematurely? Put a comment about that. And then we have the old powerhouse of classic or brilliant lens design. It is Zeiss, who has unveiled a complete lightweight but pricey prime series named Batis. It's spelled B-A-T-I-S. It's a series of lightweight prime lenses made by Zeiss, or Carl Zeiss company, and this one is the newest. The newest one in this lineup is a 135mm f2.8 that will cost a pocket-emptying $2,000. Thinking back that I've done a video series about budget 135 f2.8s, I'm a little bit, what justifies that it costs $2,000? But if there's any anoraks out there that can tell me why, put a comment in the description below. But anyway, another one of the news that I thought was a little bit cool is that Sony is already planning for a digital medium format sensor for release in 2018, and they have stipulated that this digital back for medium format, or rather 645 cameras, will have a megapixel count of 150 megapixels. And that means basically that price, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. That's my prediction of it anyway. Well, Canon hints also in a press release about that they are working on a new lens technology that will allow photographers to, as they put it, take a new kind of photograph. Who knows? Well, it's a little bit of vague rumors and speculations about it already, but we'll see a little bit more closer to if Canon releases anything else around this mysterious new lens that will be able to take a whole new type of photography. Yeah, that's basically the end of lens news, or rather photo news in that aspect for the time being. But as long-time followers of me has seen my little, compilation of flash photography tutorials with the Mamiya, the Mamiya 645 Pro camera, well, I'm happy to announce that I have actually developed the pictures. I developed them myself in the laundry room and scanned the negatives. So as an ending on this photo news number 7, I think that I'm gonna treat you all to a little bit of a slideshow of the pictures, yeah, once again I would like to end like I started, with a sincere thank you so very much for 200 plus subscribers. So anyway, this is Tobias Bergstrom from T.B.Photo X1.5 TFX, and I'd like to see you guys in the next video. And as always, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and as you should say in this YouTube malarkey. And yeah, that would be all for now. So take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.